Hey, Maayan and Gal here. Welcome to the Coffee Talkie Show, the podcast for women living abroad. And today we have a special guest with us, Katharina. Together we will discuss how to navigate online dating abroad and what's important for expats when it comes to finding their match. But first, let us introduce to you to Katharina.
So, Katharina Gruber, he's a highly experienced marketing veteran, web designer, and advertising agency owner. She's also the founder of European Abroad, an international dating app and website that connects singles and friendship seekers from around the world. Originally from Germany, Katharina moved to the USA when she was 29 years old with a plan to stay only for 2 years, but fun fact, she is still in the USA 22 years later. Her love for the country and her passion for work led her to stay and build there a successful career. Over the years, she has helped numerous businesses with their marketing campaigns, and today she implements all of her knowledge into her dating app. When she's not working, Katharina loves to stay active outdoor with her husband of 31 years, and she enjoys golfing, mountain biking, skiing, surfing, yoga, and walks with her dogs.
We invite you to grab your coffee and notebook and give a big loving welcome to Katharina. Hi, Katharina.
Hello.
Katharina, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with moving abroad?
So I moved abroad quite a while ago. It was in 2000, August of 2000. My husband's work had an opening in the United States. We both lived in Germany at that time. We were both from. I actually worked in Switzerland, but the opportunity came for 2 years. It was planned, and we were actually both very excited about it. So we made the move in August, and it was an adventure. It was an adventure, and I have to say, I actually lived in the United States when I was 19 as an au pair for a year. So it was my first time really to move abroad, but it kind of was because, when you're 19, just finished high school and going for a year, mom always calling you, it's different than when you take your boyfriend, at that time and move everything and really leave everything behind. Your house, your furniture, your job, everything starts new. So that was quite a different move abroad and stay abroad.
I can totally imagine and I can totally relate. When I moved for the first time at 19, it was a completely different experience than when you move in different scenarios, right? Like you don't have the same responsibilities.
Exactly. Yeah. You always knew I had my return ticket. If something is not going right, the family that I stayed with or whatever, I always could just like, nah, mom, I'm coming home and, go to the airport basically and fly home and be back in, that nest of, parents in the house in your own room. And then when you move and have to start a job abroad and find a place and sign a lease and all these things, it's very different.
Yeah, I can totally relate to this. And although you've been an expat for more than 20 years now, tell us what inspired you to create an app that is specifically for expats.
It grew out of basically a joke. Or a funny situation, and my husband and his friend, a co-worker from England, my husband from Germany, they played golf and with two other people, and you strangers, you get paired up, and they both have very strong accent, British accent, German accent, and the gentleman at one point asked, he's like, so how did you guys meet? You know, not knowing what the situation is. And of course, the British person, you know, British humor, he's like, oh, I met him on europeansabroad.com and I fell in love with his blue eyes. And we thought it was so funny. And they were like, wait a second. Okay, we might be on to something. And so we started talking about it, and we looked back at when we came to the US. We thought of friends we had, people that we met, coworkers that came to the US. And we really, at the more we thought about it, we were like, this is something that could really work. And you know, from as with anything, an idea, we started, you know, looking into it and hiring a team. And you know, 2 years later, it finally launched.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I love British humor making total sense right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
What starts like a joke becomes something really interesting at the end, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah. It just a name, you know. We're like, well, Europeans abroad, and you know, as you know, there's so many people, and there are more and more people with globalization and the younger generation growing up already basically with English TV. I mean, in my generation, we didn't have any, you know, English speaking TV. We had all the US shows, but they were all synchronized in German. So we really had to learn German, and it was really hard. English. It was really hard to, you know, find a movie in English or something. But today I see my nephew. I mean, he speaks fluent English just by watching, you know, House and How I Met Your Mother on Netflix in Germany.
And it's amazing because in terms of connections between people that are living, because we know it, there are so many people that are moving abroad every day. Like there are people from all over the world moving all over the world. Then I can definitely understand why you like this type of app can have like a place in this world of people wanting to connect with people that are doing crazy similar things as to moved from one country to another.
Yeah, and it's amazing when you see how, you know, it was originally it was kind of thought, you know, Europeans abroad, but then when we launched the app, there are people from all over the world, you know, Japan, from African countries, Kenya, Ghana, you know, South America, and yes, they're Europeans that, you know, moved to these countries, but there are also people that like moved within, you know, Africa. It's a huge continent, you know, South America, huge, you know, that moved from Brazil to Chile or Argentina, that are looking for international connections or maybe connections back to their home. So it's not just, you know, Germans moving to the US looking for Germans. It's a lot broader. The world is truly, you know, global these days.
That's true, and I love that. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things that the internet created. Like we're all, you know, connected in a way, and it's so much easier to connect
Yeah.
with each other.
Yes, yes. I remember I mentioned earlier when I was an au pair, when I was 19, you know, the only way to connect was to call. And it was so expensive. I think it was back then, it like the minute to call my parents, or to them to call me from Germany was like 3, you know, euros. It was Deutschmark back then, but kind of equivalent to 3 euros a minute. I mean, my parents had really, really high phone bills, and that was the only way, or letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember this too. Like I had this card, you know, when I was 18, I left home and I wanted to call my parents. I'm like, I'm okay, bye. That's it.
Yeah. $3 gone.
It's funny. I remember it's not the same time. We did have phones. I don't think we didn't have WhatsApp at the
No.
time. But I was living in the UK, wanting to come back to Paris, and I called home, like the number at home, and no one answered. And I was like, "Well, they'll have a surprise. I'm arriving in 3 hours." Because calling to a mobile number was so much
Yeah.
more expensive, so I didn't even try. I literally called home. No one answered. I was like, okay, I'm going on this train. They'll figure it out sooner or later that I'm there.
No texting or, messaging. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, I feel so old when we say that, but it's funny how things evolve. Like, and we're talking about dating. I remember living in the UK, and that's where like I started a long distance relationship with someone back in Israel, and for us to be able to talk, it wasn't via an app or anything. We were only able to do it via Facebook Messenger at the beginning and Skype a little bit. It was like this was the thing. We didn't have dating apps or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. I mean, I feel, you read a lot of, negative things. Like BuzzFeed has like the top 20, terrible things that happen on apps. Well, there are always top 20 bad things that can happen with anything. I mean, with your morning coffee. Um, you know? But I feel the same, and that's why we felt like this is a good thing to do. Anything I do in life, I really wanted to make sure it's not something that in overall harms, causes harm, is ethically correct, let's put it that way. So, and I felt like with the dating app, we're like, well, is this really something, um because Tinder and these other, some of them have a not so good reputation, but I think it's not so much the app itself, it's what people make out of it. And it's the same with the internet, like you mentioned earlier, look what happened. Now we can connect, it's great, it's such a global world. Of course the internet brought really bad things too, but it depends what you make out of it. And with our app, we really made trying to make sure, and as we grow, continue to make sure that it's a safe and a clean, a clean place. That's really important to us.
That's amazing. So tell us, from what you're seeing around you and from doing some research for your app, what would you say are the unique challenges of, let's say, expats or people living abroad regarding those dating and relationships while living abroad?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, and then also equally the biggest advantage, is that you're dealing with different cultures, and that can be extremely exciting. It can be extremely annoying if you have, if you start a relationship with somebody that's from a different country. It comes with a whole bag of um, things and behavior and unwritten rules that you're not familiar with. And so I feel like in the earlier days, where you really started your connection and your relationship in person, and you were like literally face to face with those different rules, it's harder to adjust to it. You have to communicate really, really well from the very beginning, as opposed to dating apps, where you can really make clear at the beginning kind of like who you are and what you're expecting, and you have the interaction over a little more flat mediums like messaging and video talk, where you can ease in a little bit more. And I feel like that's a really good advantage, especially for different cultures. The clash is not as big, and you can figure out a little bit better, is this something that works for me or not. And then if not, there's not really that much harm as to like face to face having a meeting and say, this is not really working, and then you have to explain and explain unless you run away. So I feel like with the online dating, and especially for expats, you can you can set the expectations right a little bit better, but not as much that it gets boring. Because I mean, let's be honest, we all kind of like the adventure. Otherwise, you wouldn't be really an expat. And that I think goes into relationships and dating too. I mean, if you want to date or find a spouse or a partner that's really very, very in line with your beliefs, your lifestyle, you probably stay at home and date within your community, which is not a bad thing. Everybody has their own, preferences. But the ones that are expats, I mean, they're a little bit, more adventurous or open or willing to explore different cultures. And, it's a blessing and a burden on both ends.
I think it's interesting what you mentioned because I have a lot of conversation about this with my single friends about this idea of like having to adapt to different cultures. And when you're trying to date local people, basically you're the one that has to really adapt to their country. Because if, for example, I'm using any type of dating app right now in France, then it's assumed that I need to put my profile in French and I need to make the efforts to be as French as possible because otherwise I will be considered as a tourist. And then it says something about me.
Mm.
Um, and I have this conversation with a lot of my expat friends, and that's where I think a dating app that is specific for expats is really interesting because then everyone knows that you are an expat, and you might find different cultures within the same location, but everyone has to make like some adjustments and be really open minded and accepting of the differences, because definitely there are some cultural differences that you need to be first of all aware of. Like there are things that we just don't know that are in the type of connection and how you talk. Like my friend the other day was like, God, I need you to explain me something. Is this French or is this guy? Because like I'm trying to understand if it's like, is it something that is common or
I see a lot of this kind of posts, on Facebook groups. Like, is this American or it's just this guy? Like, I don't understand what's going on because when we live in a new country, we don't know the culture. We don't know if it's like, is, is he a jerk or it's just,
is it?
the way to say it.
Like, and we're laughing about the fact that like French people are a little bit like arrogant, but it's not that they're arrogant, it's just that this is how they do. And then you have someone that is super chatty, and like we talked with Anna on our different podcast about the fact that she's having this very British humor, but when she came with all of it to a very French group, she was like, hey, this doesn't work here. So there are some differences. Uh, and then when it comes to relationship, we don't see things exactly the same way. So we need to be open minded as to, hey, it's different.
Yeah, and I feel one advantage is too, you mentioned earlier, dating local. So when you move to a different country, hopefully you like it, and you're excited about the people, you like the people, the way they do things, and you're interested in dating something locally. Um, on a dating app that really is geared towards expat, it's not only for expat, it's also for people that are interested in dating. So um, one of the feedback we got from quite a bit here from people and friends, coworkers, that are single, that are Americans, and they're like, oh, I would love to, date a German woman, or, I've been there, they're beautiful, the way they, these things. So that gives you also the opportunity to tap into the local dating pool, but already with people that are knowing that they're getting into something a little different than if they, date a woman from their own culture and area. But that's the excitement on both ends, where they're like, okay, I know you're different and I'm excited to learn about your differences and I'm open to them. And if something happens where I'm like, oh, is this yours? This is, is this your culture? Then I'm willing to explore that. And if it's you, then yeah, well, maybe it's just not working. But that's an advantage too for the ones that are local, that are not expats, but they're really interested in maybe tapping into a different pool of people in terms of dating and relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah,
makes
definitely.
sense. So tell me, how do you see this dating for expats evolving in the next couple of years? So we talked about how it evolves already with those apps, and how do you see it happening in the future?
So first of all, I don't think it's going to go away. We talked earlier, so many people are moving, that the world really became more transparent too. I think that helps. Even the ones, again, mentioned earlier when we were young, it was truly a very different place that, you maybe saw on national TV, like a little 45-minute, travel show once every 3 months about the United States, or you saw posters or something. I mean, now you go on the internet, you can see everything. So that the world became a little more transparent, which, helps people to say, hey, I want to see this, I want to go there, I can work there. So definitely it's going to be more and more global world. Then I think it's going to evolve in terms of technology. I think I don't know when. I mean, I'm not talking next couple of years, but for sure, maybe this coming decade or in 2 decades, it's going to get a lot more virtual. The metaverse is evolving. I mean, AI is evolving. I think we're going to have a lot more real life experiences in terms of dating. I'm thinking, virtual metaverse type thing, where you have dating rooms, in apps that offer you a 3D experience in terms of dating. Um, how that's going to look exactly, I'm not sure, but we are kind of looking into it and talking with some technology development team in terms of what they think, so we don't miss the buzz on that one.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I kind of hope not having to deal with it because it's scary. But on the other hand, it is interesting. I'm like, ooh, maybe there is something in it. But yeah, I agree with you that it will definitely keep on going. And I think the more technology is always going to be here, and people will always find new ways to use technology to interconnect between people. And I think what's even more interesting in terms of expats and global life is that you will see more connections from people that are actually not from the same country and moving, because people will have this willingness to move more easily from one country to another. And if right now, like, expats are looking for other expats, but within the location that they are currently in, uh, I really can imagine that in a couple of years' time, you will have someone living in the US and starting to talk with someone in the UK or Italy or Spain, and one of them decide to actually move abroad because of this. And that's how they would start connecting. You already see it today, but I think it will get more and more. People will be more willing to move abroad for that.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it will be more normal to do that and just give it a try. And if it's not working, people are just more flexible for sure.
Yeah, because I think that that's the thing. Like, now, our this time of life, moving abroad is still a big thing, but there are more and more people doing it, so it becomes more normal. And even if there are like challenges that are involved in it, and it's scary sometimes, more people are willing to take the risk. So the more people will be willing to take the risk of moving abroad in general, the easier it actually will become, or something you will say like, well, I'm willing to take the risk on a, like, even more than what maybe we used to.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, what with our app too, we built in that. So you have three options basically. You can say in your profile that you're looking for friends. So, you move to a new country, or you're planning to move, or, just there for an assignment work wise, or what, that you just want to find some friends, people that are interested in meeting, with you, hanging out with you, or maybe even just local people from your own country, to ease a little bit the transition. And then you can also look for friends with benefits, because you're young or whatever, but you make it clear from the very beginning in where you at in your life, and you're not willing for a long-term commitment. Or you say you want to look for a spouse partner, and then it depends on the two to really define what that means, how serious. But with more and more, like we said, more and more people, moving abroad, trying it out, having that option to just look for friends and have build yourself a little support group in the area. We have location based. You can really search it down by, basically next door. Um, that gives you just the option again, and a helpful tool to make that move just a little easier, to know you have, a couple of people that I mean, we all know how good it feels to have a neighbor that you feel like has, you can trust, that there for you if something goes wrong, that you're not completely alone.
I can totally relate to that on all levels. And actually, it takes me straight to the next question. Can you tell us or share with us any success story or positive feedback you had from your clients right now on the app, about that illustrate like the special benefits of being in a specific for expat kind of app like this?
Well, we're fairly new, so we're only around for like 4 5 months now, live. So we have limited, because nobody really kind of reaches out and said, oh, I found my spouse. We will in the future, but for now, we're still like get it all situated. But definitely, feedback from people that were referred from friends, that know about what we did, and then they refer 'em, and then they hear back, and they're definitely saying that it 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 is it's really refreshing to see that you have that option. uh, we have quite a comprehensive profile, because we feel like it's important, if you're serious with it, to fill it all out and really give people a feel of who you are. And we put an emphasis on, the international factors, so people really say they like that, where it helps them to really explain who they are in terms of on an international scale. And then, of course, the in the app, in the website, the secure messaging and the secure video chat that you can do, so you don't have to give out your phone number or email or anything. And then the blocking, people like to, where you can it sounds harsh, but especially as a woman, but as a man too, if you feel like somebody has not the right intentions, you can block them, and they're going to be gone from your profile. And I feel like that's the power that you really should use and have to use. And it might sound harsh, but it's important to be able to do that, because there are really some not so nice people out there. And then you can report them to us too, and we'll investigate. So, but yeah, it's just the feedback that it just gives you a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah, I again, I'm using many of those apps. So, and also European abroad, because there's different people on different app, and every app has their own its own benefits. So it's true that seeing on European abroad a different typecast of people, because they are presented differently, and they know what they're here for. So it is refreshing compared to different apps and all those features. Like, unfortunately, as someone who has studied and researched dating apps for a while now. Both also as part of my master degree in positive psychology. There are a lot of behaviors online that are not necessarily the most nice from both men and women, and we need to be aware of those. And then it's good that apps are providing ways to deal with them whenever you deal with.
Yeah, and then that's kudos to the really big ones that have been around for many, many years, like eHarmony and these really, really, I mean, multi-billion by now dollars, but they really um you know came to the table and did something about it, and enabled also in creating technology that helps with it. Like there we have a filter in it whenever you put blacklisted words in it. Then it doesn't show, it's just X, basically little stars, so you can't really write abusive language to people in the chats. um, which I feel like it has no place. It doesn't matter if you want to take that conversation offline and you're willing, you can do that, but don't do it in the app. And then we're working on it to do it for photos as well, where photos it's a little trickier, but um, it I feel like it's definitely something that people need to have these options.
What people need to have is to not send those kind of pictures on the apps, but until that happens and until we can educate the world, we can use technology instead of human common sense.
Yeah, yeah, you should think, right?
I really don't get that. That's the one thing I don't get. Like,
Yeah, there's an app for that too. Go to that one.
yeah, use whatever you want. Just stop bugging us with those things. And it's men and women, and yeah,
We see it
okay,
all over.
all
You see
over.
it now on Instagram
Yeah,
all day
what's
long.
up with that? Like all the time, I'm seeing, those. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to not have that platform, but I'm telling you, there are people already, those were the first ones. They found us and they're like, I'm like, oh no. Um, but yeah, it's just life.
Like, come on, get a life. What do you do in your own free time? Do you, search a platform to show your ass?
Yes, bringing it from technology to human. Find your ways to cope with it. Find your ways to. It's true for different cultures to understand that it's different. Be accepted that it's part of this life, and then just find your ways to deal with it in a better way. So, Katharina, I know that you've done quite a lot of research about dating life in general, and you've mentioned to me a couple of times like things that you read through different social media platforms about dating life. And do you have any insights regarding like the needs and preference of expats, generally speaking, when it comes to dating and relationships?
Yeah, I mean, it, interesting enough, so it's not as that different than anybody that looks for human companionship, and but again, I mean, I feel like with expats, it the need for security is really more important, because you left your family, you left your friends behind. No matter if you're a man or woman, but women, I think even a little bit more. um, you want to feel that you are in a safe place, and that you can experience and dating and connecting with people. If you're homesick, you can connect with people from your own country, speak the language. We all know how easy, even after 22 years in this country. My husband is German too, so we speak German at home. But if he travels and I have a lot of calls in English, it still tires me out more than speaking my mother tongue. And so even after 20 years, and I'm sure you feel the same. Uh, so with the dating app, you have the option to, or as an expat dating, looking for a relationship, you can go back into the safety of your culture, your language. Um, and that for some is very much needed because they start a new job, they live in a strange country, the food is not the same. I mean, the list goes on and on. We all know that as expats. So having the security, or the option to kind of step back and maybe find that little bubble of home with friends, or with a more serious friend, partner, that's really what we see, is important for some expats. And then others, they just want to dive in and experience all the different, in the culture and in the people. So um and that's important for them too, because they want to take it all in, and they're in it for the 100%. So I feel like these are like the really important things for expats, what we see, for them in terms of dating.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would add, I think again, on a personal level, probably, and maybe a couple of my friends that I hear it quite a lot, is a lot of experts are looking for this open-minded um, approach to life, because we moved and because we've seen things differently. And because many, I don't say everyone, but many of the expats, we are a mix of already a couple of things in ourselves, because we are a mix of couple of cultures, or we're trying to do different things and we're more accepting. So it's something that is important to have this acceptance or open-minded approach to things. Like we cannot have a very narrowed minded, this is how we do things, because we just change everything we've done and we do differently. So
Yeah, but don't you feel like you also feel, I mean, I feel that way again after 22 years living in the United States. Uh there's a lot of comfort in like what defines you. And I mean, and in some ways I'm very American, and I don't even know how much I am American. But um certain things that just makes my heart warm and feel fuzzy, is like the connection to certain things that define me as a German, and as a living at home, living, being from Germany.
I can totally relate to this, and that's what I mean. Well, while we are a mix of things, if you meet a new person, they need to understand and be open-minded enough to accept that you have parts of one culture and you have parts of another culture. Like, I know that a friend of mine said to me the other day, like, she was like, I am speaking fluently French right now, but I need the person that I'm gonna be with to understand, in some ways I'm still American. Like, I'm very much American. I still have those comfortable things. I still have my holidays. I still want to have to be able to say things in English, because it's less of a headache sometimes. So that's why I say, like, I think a lot of expats are looking for this open-minded, being open to different things, because we are a mix of different things.
Absolutely. And I think, that's the beauty of it. And you should never, and like I said, 22 years in a foreign country, don't ever let that go. That makes you unique, and that makes you, who you are, and defines you. And so, you know don't ever, to the expats out there, don't ever try to blend in too much. I mean, you want to respect the culture. I mean, there are things about the United States, we all know, as Europeans, is questionable. Let's not even go into politics. I mean, we, any country but US. um and you got to embrace that, but and just be who you are. Don't try to blend in too much. Say the things in your mother tongue, and enjoy your holidays, and embrace that. Don't give up that personality, in dating, and in life, and at work, everywhere, because that makes you unique.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. And we say it a lot. There's a really fine line between blending in and feeling like you belong, like you're a local, and losing yourself because you give up everything that you believe in order to blend in. So it's a really fine line. And we should, it takes time to adjust and to understand, first of all, who we are and what we want to bring with us from our home country and our culture, and what we want to take in from the new one, and like create this new self. And it takes time to learn how to do that. But it's true in life and in dating and in everywhere. Like that's the way of expat are living.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It is funny because I had a client yesterday, and she made a comment about that I'm very much German because I was kind of like setting the timeline, and she's like, "Oh, you just like my German friend. She's very, I don't know the word she said, not stubborn, but just like very, commanding." And I'm like, I didn't feel that way, but I mean, she's the client. And I'm like, okay, once you're German, you're always German.
And that's okay. We own it.
That's okay. Yeah. But yeah, you own it. But it was just funny that it came out of the blue. I haven't heard that in a while, but you are who you are.
So it brings us to our last question, and that's the question we ask to all of our podcast guests. And it's, what does it mean to you having a smooth and positive move abroad?
Yeah, I read that question before too, and I was thinking about it a lot, and a lot came to mind. But I think from what I experienced and what I still see with people that are newer to being an expat, um, to have a smooth and positive, you really need to want to do it. I've seen spouses of mainly men that are moved to the US, so they had that opportunity and they came with them, and they're just not embracing it, and they really don't want it. They don't know the language really well, they're not learning it better, they're not connecting with anybody, and they're very lonely and very sad. So I think really important is, if you decide to make that move, either because you have a job opportunity or your spouse, um, really, try to embrace it, and at least learn the language a little bit. And then be open minded. I think that's really the important part. Be open minded, because there's certain things, no matter the country, that you are not you didn't grow up in that culture, and it some things are just startling, and you just accept them and say, don't like it, will never like it, but that's what it is. Don't try to change people. They are who they are. And I think if you just give it a little bit more the um, relaxed point of view on things, it will make it a lot easier. That's what I think. If you question everything, and you know then you will never like it. We've seen that also with people that came here, and the things they notice and they contemplate about are staggering to me. Where I'm like, wow, this doesn't matter. Little things, the known, like, Americans are superficial. They say hi, how you doing, they don't really mean it. Does it matter? I mean, I have conversations with people I never met, at the catch register, the barista, whatever, and it's a back and forth, and we both smile. Hey, that's if she really means it. I mean, how do you know? I mean, some spouses you don't know, some, but it made a smile. It made her smile. I think it was a genuine smile, and makes the life a little easier. So if that's superficial or not, that's maybe, but hey. It's not important. So I really feel like really embrace it and really just have respect and have just a little, I don't know the English word really, but just let people be.
I love that. Let people be is a good one. Just let people be, and it will be good. Thank you so much, Katharina, for being here with us today. We, of course, will put the link to your app inside all the captions wherever you're listening to this podcast. So if anyone wants to join your app, they can find you and have all the information that they need over there. And I want to thank you again for taking your time to be here with us today.
I really, really appreciate it. It was so much fun and so excited to be here. And I love what you guys are doing and helping women and just expats, having that smoothtive experience. That's so great. And I really, really appreciate you inviting me. It was such a pleasure and honor to be here.
Thank you, Katharina, for being here with us today. And thank you for joining us on the Coffee Talkie Show, the podcast for women living abroad. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insights, tips, and inspiration for your journey as an expat.
If you have any questions, comment, or suggestions for future episodes, please feel free to reach out to us via our website or social media. And if you love what you heard today, please like, follow, and leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, sending positive vibes your way.